Hey there, Erica Torres-Duziak here, your success coach with Redefine and Rediscover. So let's talk ketogenic for a bit today. I will tell you that I am someone who, when I hear about something being popularized or coming out, I'm not one to jump on the bandwagon. I like to consider myself different. I like to do things that are way different than what everybody else is doing. So when ketogenic started becoming more popular, at least in my circle, I did resist it in the beginning. I was not a fan. I was like, man, any diet that says I can't have some carrots, yeah, even though I don't love carrots, but still, or, these beautiful fruits that I believe God has made, somehow it just doesn't make sense in my brain that I'm not supposed to have that. Needless to say, it started becoming, the idea of being able to have a high-fat diet was becoming sexier and sexier to me, because if I had to pick between carbohydrates and fats, I'm going to go with fat, like hands down. So finally, about 8 weeks ago, I decided that I was going to play around with it a little bit. So I started with a low-carb eating plan. And there's definitely a big difference between low carb and ketogenic. So if you're not sure of the differences, make sure to Google that, look that up. So I started with low carb. So I was still eating more carbs than allowed on the ketogenic for the first few weeks. I actually lost some weight. I was feeling really good. And then I went into more of the ketogenic, getting that 70% fat, having my coffee fat bombs and coffee fat bombs. Doesn't matter. Some kind of ketogenic coffee treat in the morning, as well as making my keto desserts. And I will say, for the most part, I really enjoyed that eating plan. I still had cravings because I was making sweets, ketogenic sweets. So using stevia and erythritol and all that good stuff still lit up the pleasure centers of my brain, telling me, hey, love to have some more. But aside from that, and then the other part that I didn't love is that I couldn't have as much protein as I was used to, and I love my meat, love my protein. So I did feel a little restricted and a little controlled, and a lot of thoughts surrounding food. And for those of you that I've worked with, or that know a little bit about my history, I did have an unhealthy relationship with food, or an eating disorder in my past. So getting on some kind of eating plan that is very restrictive isn't usually the best idea, but it had been so long for me, and I thought, that might work out. So needless to say, all was pretty good until I got my blood test results within the past week, and I found that my entire life I have had normal, in the range cholesterol. I'm speaking of the bad cholesterol, the LDL, always in the middle, and my blood test showed that it was out of the range. It went beyond. Now, I'm not in like the danger. It was about 110, but to go from 77 to 110 in the span of, by the time I took the test to the time I started, we're talking 6 weeks on keto, I knew without a doubt, hands down, it was related to all of that fat intake. Now, I will say that if you are someone that has cholesterol issues and you're freaking out by what I'm saying, most people, based on the research I've done, does pretty good with the ketogenic. Actually, it lowers cholesterol. There is a small percentage of the population that has this reverse effect, and it can actually raise your bad cholesterol. Guess that's me. So I was definitely disappointed, because I felt like that was a good eating plan that was working really well for me, and I felt good, my energy was great. And so what does that mean for me? Well, that means that I'm going to be kind of rewinding back, because I still love my fat. So I'm going to rewind back a little bit and go more towards that lower carb, not quite ketogenic. Now, I will say this. I took a Pathway Fit genetic test a couple years ago, Pathway Fit, and when I got the results of that test, it shows, based on your genetics, what different diets work best for you, if you're someone who craves sweets, or if you have just all sorts of cool information. And it came back and said that the best diet for me was to eat 50 to 55% carbohydrates, less than 20% fat, and then the rest protein. So it was like high carb, then moderate protein, and then low fat. And I was like, what? Yeah, so I completely resisted that plan because eating a lot of carbs for me creates a lot of cravings. So clearly I thought that wasn't the right thing, but I went back to that results. I went back to the results and I'm reading through, and it specifically said that based on my genes, although I believe genes can be woken up or put to sleep based on other things that we can do, but I'm getting sidetracked here. It did say that based on my genetic type, I am more prone to having high LDL cholesterol if I consume a lot of saturated fats. Well, what's coconut oil? It's a saturated fat. So for me, not eating that much coconut oil is going to be a better thing. So I will be making adjustments. So I want you to think about this as it relates to you. When you hear about a new eating plan that's working for everybody else, I think it's good to try it. I think it's good to see what works for you. And as you're going through it and you're paying attention to your body and what it's saying, you can decide, does this work for me or doesn't it? I always say give it at least a month. So I definitely gave it more than that. But I hope that you'll take this information and you will take a look at what your eating plan is and ask yourself, do I feel better on it? Is this working for me? Is this having my other blood work within range? Is this working for my body? And go with that. And if it's not, and it feels a little disappointing, then we just get back up and we take a step and we go on to the next. So wishing all of you a great day, and just wanted to do a quick